Hello? Hello? Hello?
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and I'm continuing to use the coronavirus lockdown as an opportunity to talk about some older films. And today I'm going to review the 1954 thriller Dial M for Murder by one of my favorite directors of all time, Alfred Hitchcock. It was probably around 10 years ago or so when I really delved into his filmography, when I watched almost all of his films in chronological order. This was when I was still studying film at the university, and I miss those days when I got the time to completely absorb myself into a specific filmmaker's career. If you ever want to go through Hitchcock's works, or at least some of it, I highly recommend getting François Truffaut's rather famous book about the master of suspense. It consists of several hours of interviews in which Truffaut asks Hitchcock about all of his films. Truffaut, who wasn't just a well-versed French film critic, but a filmmaker himself, was someone who was really interested in the craft of filmmaking, and this book is a dream for every lover of cinema. The French title, Le Cinéma selon Hitchcock, translates to The Cinema After Hitchcock. The English version is simply titled Hitchcock, but the best title goes to the German version. Mr. Hitchcock, wie haben Sie das gemacht? Which translates to, Mr. Hitchcock, how did you do that? Unfortunately though, the chapter for Dial M for Murder is really short, because it wasn't one of his movies he wanted to talk about much. It's true that it's one of his simpler films, you could almost say more like a mere directing exercise between his more sophisticated ones. It did come out the same year as Rear Window, but to nail something like Dial M for Murder the way he did also exemplifies the skill of a true master, and I think Dial M for Murder is an absolutely terrific film. It was based on a successful play of the same name by Frederick Knott, and a tremendous amount of praise definitely goes to the fantastic script, which was adapted for the big screen by Knott himself. And the material is perfect for Hitchcock, because the story is all about the perfect crime, the perfect way to murder someone, a topic that Hitchcock has exercised again and again in many of his films. A Perfect Murder was also the name of the 1998 modern remake starring Michael Douglas. Dial M for Murder stars Ray Milland as the former professional tennis player Tony Vendis. He has found out that his wealthy wife Margot, played by Grace Kelly, had an affair with the crime fiction writer Mark Halliday, played by Robert Cummings. Early on in the film, he invites an old acquaintance from his college days to his London flat and blackmails him into murdering his wife. He has planned each and every step meticulously, from him contacting and luring in his old acquaintance Swan, who has become a small-time criminal, to the murder of his wife, and he lays out every single detail of his sinister plan before Swan and at the same time before us. And as meticulous as his plan is the whole film and Hitchcock's direction. Like I said, the section about Dial M for Murder only inhabits a very small part in Truffaut's book, and Hitchcock more or less only addresses one aspect that he thought was of upper importance for his adaptation, but it is absolutely crucial for why the film works as well as it does. This is an adaptation of a stage play, and though it uses the means of cinema, a super precise camera work, a wonderful suspenseful score by Dmitri Tiomkin, a great sense for editing, it also very much feels and plays like a stage play. Hitchcock said that most film adaptations loosen up the source material by expanding the settings, adding more characters and stuff like that, and hence they forgot about what made the play so great in the first place, its focus. Its focus on what's really important for the story. And Dial M for Murder is a film that has no fluff. The huge majority of the film only takes place in the little London apartment of Tony and Margot. There's only one small scene at a party at another place and some shots of the streets outside. But we didn't even really leave this setting for an important courtroom scene. That moment is done rather surreal, with the characters standing just in front of some rotating lights and a voice from the off. Hitchcock's idea, and I totally understand it, was that changing the setting to a big courtroom scene would have changed the feel and unity of the film, as if somewhat a different movie would begin. But Dial M for Murder is exemplary for a confined film, where every character, every scene, every shot and even every line of dialogue is important. There's just a handful of characters and each one is of upper importance for the story, and the way it is unfolding masterfully captures our attention. Its structure is as meticulous as the content itself, and again it's pretty much stemming from the source material. Hitchcock's 1948 movie Rope also deals with the perfect murder, and it also stems from a play and unfolds like one. Yet in that film, Hitchcock challenged himself to try to film everything in seemingly one long continuous shot. It's one of the most famous examples of such an attempt. And while I think Rope is also a wonderful film, its technical side also draws quite some attention to itself and doesn't really add much to the overall story. Dial M for Murder is different, and everything seems to be dedicated to the best dramatic effect. But actually, there was also a very noteworthy technical gimmick involved. It wasn't a seemingly ongoing shot from beginning to end, it was actually 3D. Yes, Dial M for Murder was shot in 3D, because the studio behind it, Warner Brothers, insisted on it, with Hitchcock himself not really being on board with it that much. In the end, the movie only had a very limited release in 3D, because the 3D phase of the 50s and the curiosity of the audience were basically over. Hitchcock said of 3D, "It's a 9-day wonder," and I came in on the 9th day. Fortunately, the movie only has very few instances that, when you know about it, seem like typical 3D effects. Most noticeable, the hand of Grace Kelly in the murder scene. But none of those are off-putting when you watch it in 2D, and most people only ever saw it in 2D anyway, me included. It's the other elements that are worth talking about, its structure and focus. The movie's runtime is just a little bit over 100 minutes. There's an intermission exactly at the middle, and you can perfectly divide the film into 4 chapters. 2 longer and 2 shorter ones. Dial M for Murder begins with a 33-minute long introduction, after which we know exactly how the murder is supposed to happen. The last chapter, the finale, is almost the exact same length. 32 minutes. And in between are the 2 shorter chapters, one being 21 and the other being 19 minutes of length. It is a movie that basically only consists of people talking. Apart from the murder scene, you won't find any action in the typical meaning of the word. Yet that doesn't mean that it's not completely captivating and also highly entertaining. The dialogue is sharp, and the way the story unfolds is such a delight that you don't want to end this with some big chase scene or something in that vein. It's all about different plans and how they come to fruition or don't. There's no big action at the end, and yet it's super suspenseful. It's also quite remarkable that Dial M for Murder is a film whose protagonist is actually the villain, and yet, as Hitchcock knew, we are still choosing his side to a huge degree. Not in a way that we think that what he's doing is right, but when it comes to our connection to the film, we are his accomplices. The way the film is able to shift our identification and what we are rooting for is fascinating. And it also has this almost dark-humored fascination with murder and how to get away with evil deeds. It is not so much that Ray Milland's character is really emotionally hurt at all by the affair of his wife, and I don't think it's all about her money either. A huge part of it seems just to be the question if he's able to get away with it. It's the sinister joy and fun, and the film's mood oozes that as well. With just talking, this could have easily been a very dry affair, but with these performances, the sharp script and Hitchcock's great direction, it becomes something extremely entertaining and witty. I will say that it might not be for everyone, because as most of Hitchcock's movies, it doesn't want to play in a completely realistic arena. It's a film reality, and it has a certain meta quality to it. Not to the same degree as Rear Window, which is putting our voyeurism front and center, but through the character of Margot's affair, the crime fiction writer Mark Halliday, it directly addresses its idea of the perfect murder. So much so that the finale comes full circle with him trying to retread all of Tony's plan. Some might find this too much, but I find it really playful and exciting. If I had one criticism, but it's really more of a nitpick, is that Margot's picking up the phone and holding it for 30 seconds and saying "hello" for 7 times is really stretching it. But of course I completely understand that Hitchcock is playing with the audience and the suspense of her murderer standing behind her. But it's really long. So in German I'd say: Bei Anruf Mord ist zwar einer von Hitchcocks kleineren Filmen, aber auch ein Musterexamplar dafür, wie man mit höchster Präzision Filmgenuss vom Feinsten kreiert. I give Dial M for Murder 9 out of 10. It's more like 9.1, but I don't do that.
Do you really believe in the perfect murder?
Yes, absolutely. On paper, that is. And I think I could plan one better than most people, but I doubt if I could carry it out. Oh? Why not?
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Dilemma for Murder. And also let me know what is your favorite film by Alfred Hitchcock. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and now also on patreon.com, simply at the Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.